Alrighty then. Good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha Mirabal with Melco's application team doing our design shop talk today. Let me make sure both are up. We are live on both Facebook and YouTube. YouTube looks alive. Facebook looks alive. All right, so we are live on both channels. If you see me looking off to the side, I have a second monitor set up that has, the platform so I can watch for comments as they come in. If you have a question while we're live, please type them in. Type them in directly in the chats. Don't send them privately. I don't see those until much later usually. So just type them in the chat and we'll get going there. I have just a few questions. I'll start off with the ones that were sent in ahead of time, and then we will see what else you guys want to chat about. All right, so I have a logo for gym bags. Under it, I'm putting names. Each time I send it from DesignShop to the color sequence goes back to previous job. Can you show the setup for doing multiple names again? I've seen it once. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's go open up the file you sent and then I'll fix it. Okay, so this is the file you sent over. All right, so a few things that I noticed just looking through it, right? So it shows this, it shows that, then it shows this. Looking at this, it shows the lettering and then the rest. So I'm going to move the lettering that you want to do to the bottom, and I'm going to make it another color. Even though it's the same color as this, that's okay. I'm doing it this way. Cool. So now I have 4 color changes. I can save this. There we go. All right. If I go into the properties of what the thing I want to change, I can go to group names, enable the group names, and then I can type in what I want. You have all caps. Let's see. Adding some names. Whatever. There we go. All right. So once you have your names here, I can then select them all and move them over here. All right. So here's what it's going to do. Design, and then the name, and then it's going to repeat. All right. And that's what we want. Design, name, repeat. Design, name, repeat. Apply. Okay. All right. So now I can save this guy. And just to show you what it actually did, I'm going to save it as an EXP. And this is just so you can see the details. All right. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to open up the DST file, or the EXP file, excuse me. All right, and now look at it. Instead of being 4 colors, it's 12, because I put 3 names, and you can see all the names are stacked on top of each other, and the design is in fact stacked on top of each other. So when you go to program this in your machine, what you're going to do is program the first 4 colors, and then put a hold. So let me go to, I should have it here, let's see. Yeah, so you can do applique or hold, it really doesn't matter. So you would program the 4 colors of the design, so white, green, I don't know, whatever the colors are. And then you'd put a hold or an applique, all right? And then you hit apply OK and you're done. All right, so how does it physically run? It's gonna run those 4 colors and then the job will stop. If you hit applique, the pantograph will come out from under the machine. If you hit hold, it'll just sit there waiting for next command, right? So you take the item, your bag, off the machine, take the next one, click it onto the machine, hit start. It will then go to, so it'll show these 4, it'll have a hold, all right? And then it'll stop, and then it will run the next 4 colors, which notice it's yet another name, all right? And then it will hit the hold again, so it'll stop, and then you put the next item on the machine and you'll run this one and yet again another name. So one file lets me do these 3 names on 3 bags without having to keep on loading things. It's the same color sequence, so it's going to just keep repeating those same colors over and over and over again until it gets to the end of the design. Okay, so it's a really quick way to do group names in this case. Okay. Let me make sure that was the actual question, because sometimes I make it what I want to talk about. Yeah. Okay, so this color sequence reverts back to the previous job. So I assume you're talking about in the OS. So in the OS, the operating system, the color sequence is always going to be what the previous job was until you set it up, right? So on these screens here, that doesn't change unless you clear, or if you tell it to auto sequence the job. That's another way. For this one, you just color the first 4 colors. So you'd hit clear all, put your first 4 colors in, applique, apply OK, and it's just going to keep on repeating that until the file's done. Okay. So I think that answers that question. Hopefully it does. If not, type in and I'll see if I can go over it again in a different way or clarify what's confusing. Can an applique file be vectorized for laser cutting? Yeah. Okay, so new, let's make an applique file. Okay, so I drew a circle. I'm going to hit Control and I'm going to center it. So there's my placement stitch. Copy, paste, give it another color, turn that into a bean, that sews it down, copy, paste, Control, click on that, change this to tackle, make it 30 something, and a different color just because, copy, paste, change that to satin, make that 40, something whiter, and then a different color just because, and that one I meant to make 30. There we go. Okay. So this is an applique file, right? So I got my placement stitch, my tack down, the zigzag that holds it down. If I want to do any decorations, I would do that now. And then there's my satin stitch at the end, right? So this is an applique patch, but I mean, it can be an applique of any shape you want. Okay, well, let me go ahead and put some text on it. Text, there we go. All right, just so whatever you want there. All right. So how would you save off for a your vector for your laser cutter? So I normally just take the placement stitch, copy it. You don't have to do it this way. I just prefer it because I know what I'm doing. So I have the single thing that I want to save off, and I do File, Save As, change this to an SVG, circle, and there you have it. Now you can pull that up in your laser prep software or in Illustrator, whatever you need. However you're going to go send it to your laser, you can now pull that up and work with it. So it's pretty much that simple. If you did this as an actual applique, I'll show you a different one. So if I did this as an applique design, I can now go File, Save Applique Outline, change that to an SVG and triangle. It'll save that off for you. Okay, so if you do it as an applique function right here, then you can save it, just do File, Save Applique Outline. If you created it by hand, like I did here, you got to save off that one, your whatever stitch you want to be able to send to your laser. So that's why I just placed it in a new file. That way I know for a fact I'm saving off the correct thing. All right. So yeah. So there's that. Is it possible to do a basting stitch around a design with DesignShop Lite? No. Oh goodness. Mexico or Spanish. My Spanish is not so good. Oh. You're telling me hello in English. Hi. Thanks for joining today. All right. Is it possible to do a basting stitch? Oh, I already did that one. All right. So, no, you can't. You need just the entry-level digitizing software because to do a basting stitch, so if you're not familiar with basting stitches, what is that? So a basting stitch is typically it's a running stitch, right? So it's just bing, 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 bing. Needle penetrations around your design, and it's usually a large stitch length so that you can basically hold your fabric and your stabilizer together. And why is the school calling? That's not good. Anyway, so it does a shape around there with a large running stitch to hold your fabric and your stabilizer together so that when you sew it, it's kind of tacked together. At the end, you then cut those stitches out. Okay, so what are different ways we can do basting stitches? So I can do a border. So here, and tell it to be strict or relaxed. I can tell it to be further away, so you can do it this way. So that creates a normal. I would then have to adjust this to something larger. So, you know, a larger stitch length. Otherwise, I'll tell you, it'd be annoying to pull it out. All right, so that's one way I can do it. I can come over to this guy and go to the primer stitch, change that to a basting, and again, set what the offset is, and that will actually set the properties appropriate to a basting stitch. Okay, so I can do it that way. I can do it manually. So if you don't have either of those tools, I can come over here to a walk stitch and just draw something around my shape. All right, and then again, change that stitch length to be something larger. So I can manually draw it, but you can only manually draw it if you have a, if you've got the digitizing tools, which is, you need at least the entry-level digitizing software to do. Okay, so all of that will allow you to create a basting stitch that you then, you know, sew your design, trim it out. I usually trim it out by cutting the bobbin stitch, and then the top stitch just falls off and I pick it up. So that's just my preference, is cut the bobbin rather than cut the top stitch. So any questions that you guys might have, type them in on the chat, because those were the questions sent in. So I'm going to run my mouth while you guys type in questions, if you have any. Just as a reminder, I know I've showed this, you can always submit questions midweek before by going to the little form online. Just so I can show you where to find that, if you go to Melco-service, so if you go to this web page, you can go to FAQ. If you click on DesignShop, you can even, right there is a DesignShop Talk episodes. All right, and then the form is right here. So you can type in whatever questions you have, and I look at those before I create the talk for the week. Okay, so you can fill out the little form right there. If not, you can always, on social media, you'll see me post this little picture, and you can type in any questions there. So go ahead and send those in. But any questions before I call it a day? We did get you a link, so you don't have to play guessing games as to where I found that. I just like showing people where to find resources, because there's a lot of excellent resources out there to help you out. What other questions might you have? If not, this one's going to be short today. All right. Oh, one other thing. I was asked in another place, oh, yay. I'm a screen printer who designs in CorelDRAW. What's the best format to import vector into DesignShop 12? You can save EPS or SVG. I usually just have the software open, select the vector, copy it, open DesignShop, and paste it straight in. That's my preferred method. I don't bother saving it off. Creating multiple files just annoys me. So I just open it in Illustrator. But you can do it with CorelDRAW, that's fine. Open it there, select your vectors, open up DesignShop, and paste it in. But an EPS works well, SVG. I probably use SVGs more, but like I said, I don't do a whole lot of them because I just copy and paste and call it done. Alberta, does that help? All right, what other questions might we have? Before I call it a day, I always try to waste a little bit of time running my mouth in case someone's frantically typing. That way I don't say goodbye and all of a sudden they're like, darn it, I didn't hit enter soon enough. All right, y'all. I guess we will call it a day. We're doing these talks on every Thursday. Merrow stitches. What is the best way to create them in existing designs? All right. So a Merrow stitch, I assume you mean around a design. So I'm going to take this one, mainly because I have it up on the screen. I'm going to delete all the extras, turn it on, and I can go create a primer stitch or based. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I just want to create something. Let's see what that did. I don't like, well, that's okay. All right. So let's say I want to turn this. So I created a primer around this. I did it as a basting stitch. But now what I'm going to do is change it to a decorative. And that's not a Merrow. So I'm going to come over to bead and go faux patch border. And my offset wasn't big enough. So I should have done a bigger one. I can scale it up this way. There we go. Now I've got a Merrow stitch around there. Okay, so again, let me open another file just for grins. Let's see, on my C drive, designs, because you said specifically, I don't know, boats. How about boats? There we go. Like I said, there's a lot of ways we can do it. I can also do it with a border. So I can say a border bean, and if I want it strict or relaxed, offset, let's do 50. Sure. And I don't want that because I know that's going to be silly. There we go. So I've got a border. I'm going to change that from a bean to a decorative, change it down to the faux patch border. Poof. And I want to clean that up because that's ugly. There we go. So I have a faux patch border, and same with this one. I don't like that. Let's do shift click. Now it's rounded, and I can play around with it. I don't know, whatever shape you want. Alberta, does that help? So I did it with the primer stitch, with the border stitch. What's another way we could do it? You can just draw it, right? So let's say I want to just draw a walk. I can change this to decorative, change it to faux patch border, and now I can draw whatever silly shape I want. And to end it, I'm going to hold shift enter. That connects the dots. So there's again, a really ugly one, but there you go. Hand drawn. Okay. Any other questions before I call it a day? Close that, close that. Cool. All right, so every Thursday, I was saying, we do these talks every Thursday, sending your questions ahead of time. During the week, if you come across something that stumps you, type them in, submit it. That way you don't forget about it and it's there for later. Or if you can't join live, at least you know it'll be there for you to rewatch later. Of course, if you ever see these on social media asking for questions, go ahead and type them in there. I poll those before, you know, on the day of, to make sure I have something to talk about. All right. Well, I guess if we have no other questions, and if you do, type something quick. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a day. It doesn't, yeah, Facebook is coming through. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I am going to call it a day. I will be back next Thursday, and I guess we're coming up on Thanksgiving soon, so I guess, and that is a Thursday. I'm not doing it Thanksgiving Day, so that week we'll be taking off. All right. Have a fantastic week. I will talk to you next week. Have fun sewing. Bye, everyone.